The Detroit Lions defensive line against the Houston Texans struggling offensive line. And you want to know what? The Lions defensive line has found a way to make things happen even without Aiden Hutchinson there. We want to see a few more sacks there. We all recognize they need that pass rush. And guess what? Brad Holmes, Zadarius Smith, he made it happen. And now they're going to face a struggling Houston Texans offensive line. I think they got an opportunity to have a big day.
Yes, they do. And Eduardo O'Neill in the chat, please talk about the Texans interior offensive line. I would be glad to. I would. That is something that I am thrilled to talk about, and I think it could bode well for the Lions.
And I know you got some stuff prepared, but just tell me if this is what you're feeling too. Aleem McNeil, big day?
Yes, 100%.
Exactly.
So, JB, there were a couple tweets that were put out by Easy from the Heavyweights that I think are really profound and paint a great picture. So, JB, you got either one. We can start with either one first.
Let's do Aleem. How about that?
Absolutely. The interior of the Texans offensive line has allowed a combined 20.5 sacks this season, the most in the NFL. And this was an Easy tweet. Since week 4, Lions defensive tackle Aleem McNeil has 24 quarterback pressures. That's tied for 8th in the NFL and tied for 1st among defensive tackles.
Hashtag one pride.
Absolutely. Hashtag one pride. Thank you for finishing that. But yeah, if that doesn't show you that Aleem McNeil is primed for a big day, then I don't know what will. Because Aleem McNeil, quiet as kept lately, he's been pretty good. He's just been asked to do a little bit too much. He's been wreaking some havoc on the interior of the defensive line. But this week, since they're facing a very poor Texans interior, and you have Josh Paschal back, and hopefully Zadarius Smith making his Lions debut, look for a big day from Aleem McNeil, especially since he's part of a very good interior of a defensive line. And also to further highlight the Texans offensive line as a whole, not just the interior. The interior is obviously their weak point, and Laramie Tunsil's a damn good tackle. But as a whole, the Texans are the 3rd most sacked team in the NFL. They have been sacked 31 times as a team. And C.J. Stroud himself has been sacked 30 times in 9 games, which is 3.3 per game, where last season he was sacked 38 times in 15 games, which is 2.5 per game. And when you look at the Texans' interior of their offensive line, the worst guy is Kenyon Green. Kenyon Green is the worst-rated PFF guard in the NFL. The worst, the absolute worst in terms of qualified guys. And he's also allowed 5 sacks, but he actually won't be playing this week. He actually suffered a shoulder injury. He might be out for the season. I think for the Texans, you could say that that's addition by subtraction. However, the guy that replaced him last week, Kendrick Green, he sucks too. So, and I'm not just saying that. I wouldn't just say shit like that. I'm saying it because I watched and I look at the numbers as well. So this interior of the Texans offensive line could be in for a long day. And there is one more tweet that could also which gives a stat that could also bode well for the Detroit Lions. The Texans have allowed the 4th highest pressure rate against the blitz this season, 54%, while taking the 2nd most sacks, 15. The Lions have increased their blitz rate from 31.6% to 38.9% since they've lost Aiden Hutchinson. Hashtag one pride. And I love this because I think the Lions will be able to get more pressure from just the front 4 than they have in the previous 3 games by way of reinforcements and the Texans offensive line. But if they blitz, if they decide that it's advantageous to send like an Alex Anzalone or a Jack Campbell or even a Brian Branch, the Texans have proved that they do not handle blitzes well. They don't handle 4-man front pressures well. They don't handle like 3-4 defense pressures well, and they certainly don't handle blitz pressures well. So I would look for the Lions have only had 1 sack in the last 2 games combined. I'm calling for 3 or 4 and at least 1 from Aleem McNeil. I think the defensive line has a big day.
That was going to be my question, honestly, to the crew is just overall from the defense, who do you see getting those sacks? For some reason, I do believe that we're going to find that we're going to get 1 from our secondary. I just do. I feel like Aaron Glenn is going to – you're playing the Houston Texans, who are – they understand the type of defense that they're going to play up against, and I do believe that you got to scheme certain things up. you know that you have to score points if you're going to play the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
That's just it. And so I expect Aaron Glenn is going to have to get a little funky in this game. We talk about the evolution that we see Ben Johnson has made to mastermind. You believe Aaron Glenn has already taken that leap.
Yes.
And I think that we see a little bit more of that in this game, and that one of those safeties does get a sack.
We'll see. And yes, both of those tweets were from Easy from the Woodward Heavyweights. I credited him on the first one. If I didn't on the second one, my fault. And yes, as Easy said, that guy's a great follow. He's in the chat. Yes, you are, man. And those are some great stats that I think paint a picture for how this game will go.
Agree with that.
Shout out Easy.
Shout out Easy. And you said that you expect a sack from the secondary.
Yeah.
I would love it.
Blitz, safety, playing in
the only reason I question whether or not that's going to happen is, what if they don't have to? I mean, maybe they will just because they have something schemed up to where they think they can get home. But when you blitz a secondary member, you do leave your secondary more vulnerable, which may or may not be a problem. Certainly, Ife Melifonwu, when he got home 3 times last year, it wasn't a problem. But I think Ali McNeill has a big day. I wouldn't be surprised if Levi Onwuzurike gets in the sack. Gets another sack in his stat sheet. And DJ Reader, I mean, he's been very steady this year, but he's kind of been quiet, which is basically what DJ Reader does. He doesn't put up a lot of counting stats, but he anchors everything in the middle, and I look for a big day from him as well. And whoever, if you're Lee McNeil, if you're Levi Onwuzurike, if you're DJ Reader, if you see Kendrick Green across the line from you, murder him. Barbecue effing chicken.
Well, just to give Koolaid's thought like some more love, because I do like that idea of possibly a secondary member getting a sack. What about those 3 guys that you mentioned, Levi, DJ Reader, and Aleem, getting the pressure up the middle? CJ Stroud, not only does he take a lot of sacks, but he also loses a lot of yards on those sacks. So maybe he's scrambling in the backfield. Maybe one of our secondary guys who's covering somebody in the flat or like a tight end.
Corner blitz or
they decide
delay.
to make that decision, put the pressure on him. They're able to eat up a sack, get him for a loss of like 6 or 7 in the backfield on what is like almost like a broken play type situation. Ooh. Because we might bring the pressure, he might bounce outside, and that's when you see guys like on the edge or at the second level cleaning up those sacks because the pressure is forcing him outside the pocket.
That's fair.
So all I had to do was ask Chase GPT.
No, that's fair. It could be a secondary member, it could be Alex Anzalone, or it could be Zadarius Smith. But I like that, because when you watch CJ Stroud play, that scenario has played itself out many a time this year, because he's had to roll out, he's had to escape the pocket because his offensive line can't block anybody for the most part. His interior of his offensive line can't block anybody for the most part. And I think that is one of the reasons why he takes so many sacks for like -7, -8, -10 instead of like -3 or 4, because that scenario where he has to roll out, where he has got nobody to go to, and an end or a linebacker or a corner or a safety gets him, I could see that too as well. So the more you guys talk, the more you're convincing me that maybe a secondary member does get a sack.
I think it's an Aaron Glenn day.
I
do.
I think we could
feel like that.
I think it could be anybody from the linebackers or the secondary. I think we could see somebody on those second levels eat up a sack.
What up, though, JB?
I was going to say, that's what I like more. A sack coming from on the linebacker position, whether it's Jack Campbell or Alex Anzalone. Secondary, I don't want to move them out from their spacing a little bit too much, but that's linebacker. I could definitely see a Jack Campbell just rushing in and getting one. I know the line is definitely going
I'm
to...
making a Nilgasm face
right now.
Oh,
stop.
Talk about them linebackers.
Stop it. But I definitely think the line's going to eat as well, too. Aleem McNeill will eat. I think Zadarius Smith wants to implement himself in this offense or in this defense as well, too, with his first game out there. And, hell, you might even see James Houston pop back up somehow, some way. But count on at least someone from that linebacker position getting in there and sacking C.J. Stroud for at least a 5-yard loss.
Yeah. You know what? The one thing I know, and I want to get the feeling of the chat family as well, I want to know how you guys feel about this week, the defense. I see Randall Smalls. He says he may take off running too, but I know largely in this room we believe that Aaron Glenn is going to have that scheme. He's had the answers. He really has had the answers all season, and I do believe that he's going to have the answers for this game as well.
CJ Stroud's no Vanilla Vic either.
I was going to say, Chase, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because CJ Stroud, he can run. He can avoid sacks, and he can, he's smart in the pocket and all of that. But I'm just going to say this. If CJ Stroud were white, nobody would talk about his mobility. I'm just saying. Because he's mobile enough, but he's not really going to murder you with his legs. I mean, he can a time or two, but look at his rushing numbers. They're really nothing to... He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Kyler Murray. He's not Jaden Daniels. Hell, he's not even Daniel Jones, speaking of Vanilla Vic, as a threat scrambling. I hate to bring that up, but it's true.
Bring it up. But that's why I do believe this is one of those games where England is like, you know what? I think this is one of those times where Stroud is gonna get happy feet. I can catch him slipping if I get a cornerback blitz like right away or some type of delay. You know, you start to play, he's dropping back, looking one way. You know, he's gonna roll. You're gonna force the pressure to roll him to the left, and then bam, cornerback, safety, or one of them linebackers are right there to fold you away. I just feel that, man. I'm hoping that we see something like that. I do believe that England is gonna have a big day. But I do want to make sure that we get some of the perspective of somebody from the other side of the battle line. That
we got Adele coming to the studio.
One Mr. Cody Davis, man. He is on the line. I see you, Brian Roof. Brian Branch is going to be out for blood after that ejection.
Definitely.
You know what? Maybe he gets a sack.
Maybe.